Susan, that's going to be a hard story to follow. You know, I actually met your dad back in the early 80s, I think. Flew up there to Eugene, Oregon, and looked at the facility, and your dad and I talked about cones. Cones at the time were changing New Mexico, the West. I mean, every contractor had one. The roller cone was a magic. And so as it started out for me as a young man, when my dad purchased Crusher Service Company in the 60s, I had to spend my weekends welding from Friday night to Sunday night on roll crushers, and I particularly despise roll crushers because I'd rather be chasing girls. You know, I was in high school. So I spent some time putting together this 30-page document here, and I want to thank you for the introduction. And I want to thank, first of all, God for allowing me to live this long and looking after me my whole life and blessing me with my family. I have my wife, Taiwana, right there, my two son-in-laws, Joseph and Michael, and my two daughters, Jennifer and Anil. My youngest daughter, Anil, has provided us with, at one time I thought the fourth generation, but it's another 10 years from now, and who knows, you know, kind of a thing. So these two boys are the light of my wife and my life. If all the young people were as interested in knowing about our industry as Susan mentioned, our world would be a better place. But there's a lot of young people don't want to get dirty. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to breathe the dust. They don't want to get dirty. But this industry is special, and the people in it are special. I am wowed, I am honored, I am humbled by being able to be an inductee in the Pit and Quarry, and I'm going to say exclusive club. 40 people. That's 10 times these four fingers. You know, the Senate's got 100, and they don't do anything. We do stuff. We make big rocks small. How smart do you got to be? Well, you have to be pretty smart to deal with the government in the world of today with all the regulations and such that they are trying to put in and make roadblocks for us, making our society better. My wife and I had the opportunity to stand on the cornerstone of the first century in Jerash, Jordan. And if you've never been there, it's a dangerous place to go now, but the Roman roads are there, and the chariot tracks are there. And it's the most amazing thing to see how marvelous those roads are. And our roads are just as good. Well, that's not true. Interstate 40 is terrible. So there are some things that we've done. True, I developed a crusher that, because I particularly didn't like welding all day and all night, that there had to be a way. My dad and I had these conversations. There has to be a way to make chips and sand better than these roll crushers, because in New Mexico, they just wipe them right out. That rock is so hard that it sparks at night, and it'll jump right out of a crusher and jump 30 feet in the air. So it's a decomposed granite, only the word decomposed doesn't affect the granite part. But we've been doing this. Ty's been putting up with my shenanigans for over 50 years. We're going to be married here in May, about 49 years. And it's just something that I have truly been blessed that she's put up with me for that long. But there's something that's dear to my heart that I'd like to ask you. Now, I happen to know there's one other Vietnam veteran in the audience. Do we have any other veterans in the audience here today? I see Neil Schmigdal is a Vietnam vet like me. Have we got any other vets? Would you stand and be recognized, please? Thank you. Thank you so much for standing on the wall protecting America. In our life, in my history, our very first airplane, I had a picture of it, they didn't show it, which disappoints me, but that's okay. These guys, I love these guys even so. Our very first airplane was a Beech Staggerwing, 1944. And it was the airplane my dad flew out to see me off to Vietnam. And in his trip out there, the big round engine, my dad was a round engine mechanic in World War II in the 8th Air Force, and he must have been a heck of a salesman because he convinced my mother, an innocent young English woman, that he was something special. And so when they said I immigrated to America, I came to America in 1940. Well, we left England on the 26th of December, 1946, and we arrived in Farmington, New Mexico, which is in the middle of nowhere, on January the 7th, 1947. It took 10 days, took 11 days. Travel back in the day was difficult. The airplane ran off the runway. The airplane didn't this. The weather was terrible. It was filled with a bunch of Texans, and they didn't want to go back to St. Louis. They wanted to land in Amarillo. So my dad's trying to meet the airplanes coming to find my mom and me. And that little picture of me on the tricycle, I was about 2.5 years old in the Navajo reservation. And so I've been blessed in my life to grow up in this industry and meet these people. And I have some friends here. George Sidney, he said, I don't want you to cry tonight. And I said, okay, I'll try not to do that. And Jeff Sikora. Jeff and I had the most interesting conversation Saturday morning, I think, Jeff, wherever you are. I can't see you here right now, but between us, he's HazMag, and I'm a VSI guy. He said, you know, we've made all the mistakes you can make trying to make the thing right, and that's the reason it's right, because we learned the hard way. Our very first crusher was hydraulic, because we knew that the change in RPM made it work or not work. And if you could control the RPM, you could make what the customer wanted. What do each one of you do? You make your customers happy by providing them with what they want, whether it's a certain gradation of rock, or if you're a producer, a piece of equipment that helps your customer make what the customer wants. So it goes to what Susan said, we're the basic building blocks of our society. If our roads are smooth and you can get strawberries from California to New York City in 2 days or 3 days or however long it takes, how wonderful is that? And do we take it for granted? Do the young people who've had cell phones their entire lives take it for granted because they can go and get some from Amazon? You bet. And I worry about that. But that's just me. So I have digressed completely and totally out of this thing. And I apologize for that. There was something I wanted to tell you that I am now reminded of this. In my travels in the world, Semco, this mom and pop outfit, started with my mom and dad, and my wife and I as the second mom and dad, and Joseph and Jennifer and Mike and Anil. Anil not being in it, she was always aware of what's going on. And because she designed hospitals and senior citizen centers and was involved in that industry, and they said, in particular, the people who make ceramic tile, you can't crush them, you can't recycle ceramic tile. And she said to these folks one day, and not far from here, 100 miles from here in Crossville, she said, my dad can crush that. And that turned into be some really wonderful project in Chicago where they redid some government building. They crushed all the tile on the walls, on the floor, and the toilets so that they could redo it, and it has to do with the industry of, well, it's not recycling, it's post-consumer, some fancy word. Yes, anyway, so you get credits, you get credits if you're doing that and put this recrushed tile back into the courthouse. So we're pleased with that. But our industry has the most wonderful people in it you could ever meet in your life. Why is that? Because we're all trying to make a better life for our families. Every one of you is doing that. And I have been to crusher pits all over the world. And this unique human attribute is in every one of them. From the third largest gold mine in the world in Uzbekistan, to desert pits in Mexico, frozen pits in northern Canada, jungle pits in Malaysia, where you talk about a three-shaft horizontal screen. What they've got for screens there is it rains in the jungles of Malaysia all the time. And so the water running down this ditch, and there's 3 screens in the ditch, and they have a backhoe, that one side only has half the tracks on it, the pads on the track. And so the bucket looks like your wrist when you're doing this, and they clunk it down there, and they lift the track up, and they run it around where the tracks are starting to go, and then they move it because the rest of the track doesn't have any pads on it. And then he grabs some dirt, put it in the stream, it flows down to the first guy with a stick, and he's cleaning the screen, and the second guy with a stick is cleaning the next. It's a ½ inch, it's a quarter, it's a half, and it's a 3/4, and that's how they do that. And yet they're making a better life for their family. And that's what we do, and I am proud to be a part of this industry. I've had some absolutely fabulous dealers. One of them not far from here in Springfield, Missouri, Dick Childs, long gone, wonderful gentleman, was always asking me, how's your flying going? How's your flying going? I never thought much about it until I learned towards the end of his life, and I had the opportunity to talk to him about it. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. He flew Corsairs off of a carrier in the Atlantic. And he was a dealer in our industry, Child's Tractor and Machinery, and he was selling rolling stock and crushers, and he believed in me and Semco, and we sold a bunch of crushers in Missouri. And so he came out to Albuquerque one time, and am I running over too far here, boys? So he came out to see a crusher pit in New Mexico, in Cerrillos, New Mexico, that has a registered curse on it. And every owner of this mine, since this curse has been registered, has died a violent death, including Goldfields, who had a helicopter crash and killed a bunch of them guys. So we took them out there thinking nothing of it. And this was back in the 70s. I had just painted my pickup truck, Imron. It had all kinds of nice Imron on it. It was really classy looking old 73 Ford. And we're motoring up there, Ty's with me, and they brought their Cadillac or whatever he was driving. And we get back, and we decided we'd go to the Sandia Crest, which had a restaurant on it. It's 10,600 feet high. And we go up, and we have a wonderful time at the dinner, and the sunset's beautiful. If you've never been to New Mexico, it is a magical place. You can see 100 miles. Down here, if you see 6, it's a big number. So we had this dinner, and we got back down off the tramway, and we said goodbye to Dick, and they went on to their hotel, and I fired up my truck, and I'm looking, and it's not feeling right, so I get out and look on the other side. It's got a flat tire. I think it's had to do with a curse. So we had a heck of an adventure getting that changed, because I was kind of dressed up, not quite this classy, but I had a suit on. And these people in this industry, you in this industry, I think Susan said something, and Charlie, you said something that reminded me, each one of us have a ministry of people that look to us for the truth, for honesty. You know, I'd love to say, my crusher's magic, it'll make all the sand you want, it won't cost you a dime. But you know that's a lie, and we can't do that. We can't do that. And y'all are exactly like that. You tell the truth. This asphalt's going to be this much, this road's going to be this much, and I love that. I love this industry, I love the people in this industry, and I'm blessed to have been here. And I look forward to poking around still, and that's it. I could continue on, but I don't want to bore you to tears.